see is consistency over time. We consolidated in 2009, bringing the middle school students over to Whittier Middle School from Elm Street and from Minot. And we had always received the Poland kids. But at that time, it doubled our enrollment. We went from about 125 students to roughly 250. And we had 248 students. We have 248 students roughly right now. And looking at the enrollments in the 6th grades at the other elementary school, exact same number came out when I took a look recently. Our average class size, not including the smaller pull-out special education courses, is 19.5. And so again, I anticipate that'll be similar next year. And the number of students on IEPs, you can see we go up from 37 to 48, which in terms of percentage, it doesn't look like a huge increase, but we have 3 special educators. So each of them will have 16 students on their caseload next year. Of course, pending students who are out of district placement. And we do a few of those as well. Free and reduced lunch numbers this year were 44% at the October 1st check. And that, again, is fairly consistent. We stay right around 40% annually. As far as the school, we have 15 regular ed classroom teachers, 3 that are part-time or shared, and 2 of those are the music teachers that Carrie mentioned, and 1 is the physical education teacher who also works down at Elm Street School. 3 full-time special educators. We have a dean, which I should probably start out by saying thank you to the Budget Committee for letting us add that last year. It has made a tremendous difference at our school and is having a huge impact, I think, on the culture and on our students. So I am really grateful for that addition in last year's budget. We have a school counselor full-time. And she stays busy at the middle school level. And then we have a part-time shared social worker who also works down at Poland Community School. And then the gifted and talented education teacher is shared throughout the elementary schools and our school as well. We have 5 special education ed techs. Also, Carrie mentioned that we share a regular ed tech that works in the library. I didn't include her on here, but Carrie is quick to remind me of that as often as she can. I'm the principal, and then Don King is our co-curricular director. Our students are enrolled in 5 courses at a time. They go about 52 minutes per course. And the courses you'd expect: English, math, social studies, science. And then we have trimester courses. So for a full trimester every day, they meet in art, and then they rotate to technology education and then to wellness as well. They can elect to be in band or chorus, and both of those programs are fairly strong. And I really am impressed with those educators. They do a tremendous job with our students. And they meet with band and chorus 4 times a week, so it's they really are developing some strong skills. Any questions about the school? Okay, so we'll get right into the budget. And I tried to note as much as I could on my document things that Carrie had already spoken about, so that I won't spend much time on them. I'll go right through. And my budget's a lot shorter than Carrie's, so that should help expedite things as well. Okay, top of the document. Majority of that first third of that page is around salaries, stipends, and benefits. I'll just point to the 4th line there around stipends. That's line 2213-51500. That's a line that we use for paying our team leaders, for our mentoring for certification, and roundtable coordinator. So those are our stipends that are in place and part of the contract. You'll also see additional library salaries and the guidance counselor salaries up in that top third of the page. And then you come into the library numbers that Carrie spoke about. Those are the 2220 lines. And I would just echo all the same things that Carrie said about what those lines are being used for. And that includes the employee training and development, the software-related repairs, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to mention, under books, again, Julie Purdy's doing a fantastic job making sure that this is a place that kids want to be. They want to read the books that are available. So Julie Purdy's always on top of award winners. She's bringing in more e-books now that'll be a great partnership with the iPad program that we have in the school. We keep track of how many books kids read per year in the middle school, and our middle schoolers read almost 3,000 books last year, and that's 250 kids. So, you know, she's doing something right over there, and we're excited about the work going on there. The next set of lines on the bottom of this page are all technology lines. So I will leave those with Linda Chasen and move on, unless there's any questions.
I was going to say, I can see his budget didn't print out the way it should have, given you the percentages. I'm sure that was a mistake on our part when we were doing that printing. So if you have any questions about what a
I have that information right here.
Sean can share it with you, or I can.
Yes, I can.
And it is projected up on here. You just probably can't see it very well
small.
because of the printing so small. So feel free to ask if you're unsure.
Okay, so continuing on to the top of that second page, there's more technology lines, and there's my pay. I have an assistant, administrative assistant, so her pay is there, and some information about my retirement. I'm listed as an elementary principal. I'm not planning on using the retirement stuff anytime soon.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's nice to see it's there. Continuing, I'm going to pick up with elementary principal tuition reimbursement. I cut that in half. I did have enough on that line to take 2 courses this past year. I don't anticipate taking more than 1 course in the coming year, so felt like that was a cut that we could make. Employee training and development, that line is used for training for myself and for the administrative assistant. There are some opportunities for her, and she's going to be taking advantage of those, although she does a great job. Postage, I leave that line the same. Our postage, we work through the high school. Everything goes out through the high school office, and what they do is they keep a tab for us, and then they end up charging us towards the end of the year. Telephone, it looks like I think last year's budget I used to have an assistant principal half-time, and so I had half of her telephone in my budget, and that has been taken out for this year. General supplies is specifically for the office, for Maureen and I. The dues and fees line is, as Carrie said, I use that for MPA membership, NAESP, and ASCD, which is professional memberships, Optimus Club. Copier lease and maintenance, looks like it's gone up, and that number comes from central office, so I will trust that they know what they're doing over there. I see next to
We do.
classroom lease purchase. On my notes, it says last payment, and so that's good news. Wendy, is that is accurate?
In FY16.
Oh, and then we own the portable?
So we have some portable classrooms that are in the back of our current building, and we brought one over from Minot when the consolidation happened, and at the same time they leased another. So so that will be at the end of that, and that's something that we'll come back to later. Furniture and equipment. Also with the consolidation, we brought over desks from Elm Street School at that time, and we still have 3 classrooms that use the Elm Street School desks, and we're trying to replace those over time, and we were able to replace 2 classrooms this past year, and that's kind of what we're working to do, is be on a rotation. They're small. I mean, they're made for younger kids for the most part. Let's see. You see some lines there regarding custodians, teacher salaries come up next. You see teacher salary after school. We do offer a we call it Excel. It's an intervention to support students who need a place to get homework done and need some tutoring. And so that is available to students. In the past, we just kind of had an open door policy, and what we found, unfortunately, was that we were doing some daycare in there after school. But this year, we've actually turned it into a true intervention program, and I think we're getting more out of it. There's a nice line of communication between the staff that is running the program and the kids that are involved and their parents. It's been very positive. We also do a Saturday intervention with that teacher salary after school line. If kids are getting behind, they need to make up tests. It's getting towards the end of a trimester or a grading cycle. We offer school on Saturday, so kids come in for 3 hours about once a month to get some extra support. The middle school day is a very busy day, and so when we can create extra time, it's good that we can do that. The substitute salary line. You see it is bumped up again. We bumped it up significantly last year, and we still were underfunding. We have a young staff, and there's a number of them that go out on maternity leave and have children, and so we need to make sure that is funded appropriately. I don't anticipate any kids next year, but who knows? So we need to be ready, and what ends up happening is somebody may have a baby, they stay out beyond the time that they'd be covered for sick days, and so what ends up happening is actually we're not paying out of the salary line at that point, and it's so it's not money that's being lost necessarily. It's just money that's being paid out of a different line. In this case, it's the substitute salary line, but we are over that line already this year. Like Carrie said, I'm going back and forth between two documents, so I appreciate your patience. Again, on there, the stipend for Dean of Students, that was new, that was added last year. And again, I want to just say how grateful I am to have that in place and what that's meant for students and for communication with families. It just really goes a long way for our school as a whole.
The dean shows up in the teacher salary line,
The
not
dean,
the administrative
yeah, the dean is not it's not an administrative position.
The
It is a teacher.
The RTI, whatever.
Right,
RTI coordinator.
RTI coordinator.
So Sean, what is, because we can't see the percentages, what is the overall percentage increase in the end?
It's about 3% if I did the math.
That's correct.
Okay.
Overall, the whole,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a few more that I can run through if you want it, but okay. So I'm gonna drop down to where it says purchase professional services. I think that's I don't know, flipped. I think it's the last
Page 3 on them.
page 3. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Purchase professional services, as Carrie talked about, that could be a speaker coming in, could be a piano accompanist, it could be a piano tuner, could be working with microscopes. It could be a number of different things. For us, it's bringing somebody from the outside in. We work with an organization called Kiev, and they come in and work with our kids around character building and so forth. And so we've partnered with them for a number of years now, I think 7 years. Employee training and development is the opportunity to send staff off-site for training. We sent some people to a writing workshop this year, and our counselor went to a MESCA conference, and then we also use the title funds as well to find the training opportunities. Instructional supplies, we don't break it out the same way that Carrie does. I mean, I have a breakdown in my own documents, but what we do is we have just one line that takes care of all of our instructional supplies, and that will include materials for all the subjects as well as subscriptions to magazines that a teacher might use in their classroom, but also subscriptions on the iPads, such as we have one with BrainPop and another one with IXL that we use for math support and growth. District music supplies, those are what you'd expect, as Carrie mentioned, guitar strings, reeds, things that they need in the band, and music as well for the chorus. Books, we continue to build classroom libraries in the middle school. We continue to buy sets of books, although we do have a lot of choice books in the middle school. We also like to have the kids do some group work together, and that might be small groups or full classroom groups at times. Now I'm going to move on to dues and fees. Dues and fees. Here we go. All right. This is, we participate in a lot of different competitions, academic competitions. For example, NHD, we have some science competitions that we participate in. We do college visits. We have a membership with Ruth's Reusables down in Portland. We're part of the NELMS. We participate in a career fair. And then we also bring our students to Kiev. And we do ask parents to contribute part of that, but it's also some of the money is in the local budget, and that would be under this dues and fees line. Cost for transportation, we were a little bit underfunded last year, so I added $300, and that's a 9% increase. Regular stipends, that refers to co-curricular stipends, and we have a number of different offerings for kids, whether it be guitar club or art club or student council or civil rights team, but that's what that regular stipend is. And then instructional supplies, that instructional supplies refers to the co-curricular stipend, the co-curricular supplies, what they might need for those different offerings. So this is the section that Carrie talked about that Don put together, Don King. And you know, as you continue to go down through there, dues and fees would also be being part of an organization beyond the Whittier Middle School. You know, the math team and the leagues that they're involved in. The cost for transportation, getting those co-curricular groups to some of the competitions and other activities that they do. They go to a civil rights conference. But taking advantage of those opportunities, you see the athletic director's salary, and again, I think that represents 20% of the overall cost. The $28,000 for regular stipend, that's for extracurricular. That's the sports that funds the stipends for all of our coaches throughout the season. Purchase professional services, that's the timers, the officials, and I think the majority of that is the officials, and then also the officials' travel. Program supplies, that is just the material, what they need to play the sports, to replace the uniforms. Dues and fees, that's participating in the leagues that we're in. Our sports league is the Triple C. And then the cost for transportation to events that we talked about just a short time ago. So that's our budget. Any questions?
I just have a general question about stipend retirement. So particularly in the athletics, I get that if it's a stipend for a teacher who's, you know, like in a co-curricular role, that there's a percentage that goes in their retirement. So is that what that's for, if it's a teacher that's coaching?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't have any say in that. We are required to participate in Maine State Retirement when we have money going into somebody's pocket.
Is it for anybody who's coaching, regardless of whether they're a teacher or a coach?
It's just for probably teachers, right?
Right,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
because if
Thank-
it's somebody normal, it would be FICA, it would be in the benefit line, not
Gotcha.
the retirement line.
Thank you.
And one of the things that you'll notice is a lot of the other budgets were reduced in employee training, maybe some instructional supplies. Sean's budget is already bare bones, and so his budget didn't get some of those hits that the others got. You know, the current 8th graders are the ones that are going to be, maybe 7th graders, depending on our waivers, but will be the next ones hit with the proficiency-based education requirements. There's there's just a lot that the school is doing on very little extra costs. So you didn't see the same cuts in instructional supplies and employee training as you did in the other schools.
I tended to try to keep it as flat as possible. For the most part, the numbers are the same as they were last year. And but there are a couple things that I did want to bring forward as on my priority list. And if you want to turn to that document, it just says, what are your middle school priority list?
Do you have any extras of these?
The priority list.
I have one, who needs it?
Do you need another?
Well, I didn't have one either, but I can borrow Kim's, so if you'd like to
Okay.
see it, that would be fine.
I don't know. I had 15. I don't know whether-
The next one there.
Oh.
I don't need it.
I have one now.
I would like one at some point, but I can get it, I haven't, okay.
Just send it around.
That's perfect, thank you. Don't fall on the wires. Appreciate it.
So my list, the first one I want to talk about, a world language teacher. So Whittier Middle School, we're just like everybody else, we're talking a lot about this proficiency-based diploma. And, you know, as part of that, that proficiency-based diploma, there's a world language requirement. And our students in RSU 16 are not getting exposed to world language until they reach high school at this point. Years ago, I want to say it was 2008, we had a Spanish teacher that served the middle school, and prior to that, when we were just 125 kids, we shared a Spanish and French teacher with the high school.
And Latin.
And Latin, that's true. And so, you know, we made cuts, and now the kids have not had that opportunity for a number of years. So it's something that I wanted to bring to the Budget Committee and just say, you know, I think this is something you should think about. Because I think it's too bad that kids in our district don't get that opportunity. And I did make some calls, and I attached a document to this sheet. I made some calls, and I called 14 different schools that are in the area just to find out if we were in a similar situation. And these schools were either local to us or they were part of our athletic conference, the CCC. And all 14 of them offer at least one language to their students. And it also has just the notes that I took from those different schools. So you can take a look on your, you know, at your own discretion on your own time and just and look that over, because it's interesting and it's something that I think, you know, I don't know if it's a disservice, but it's something I think we should really talk about and think about making sure that our middle schoolers get. I mean, ideally, we should be talking about our kids starting even earlier than middle school with a language. And, you know, in complete transparency, we're going to have to be really, if we are able to add this world language teacher, we're going to have to be creative about where we bring them in, because we don't have another classroom for a teacher. But we would be, you know, if this is something we're able to do for our kids, you know, that person will move classroom to classroom, and we'll do our best to make sure that both our 7th and our 8th graders can at least get introduced initially to Spanish or French. I would prefer Spanish, seeing that that's what's happening at the high school right now.
The only offering we have at the high school is Spanish.
Yeah. But I wanted to put that forward to the Budget Committee and ask you to talk about it and think about it.
So Sean, I
yes.
have a related question. So I understand the proficiency-based
Yep.
issue and the, you know, kind of benefits language and all that, but related to the last point you were making, just kind of a logistical, practical issue, how would it work? Is it to be for both 7th and 8th grade students? Where do you have room in the school day to add it in? Have you thought about those kinds of
Yes,
those
I've
kinds of
thought
pieces?
about it, and I haven't made a determination about exactly how we would do that, but I've started talking to the leadership team about that as well. Because right now we run a 5-period schedule, and what we could do is we could turn that into 6 periods,
okay.
and we could, you know, I hesitate to run it as a special, you know, because I don't really think that's what language should be. But we could do something back to back with an art or with a tech ed or a wellness or something like that, to make sure that it had time and that all kids had the opportunity to access it.
Okay.
But it will require some creativity. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth making it fit. We could steal time without, you know, right now we have 52-minute classes. we could probably drop them down to 48, steal some time from academic support, steal some time from our advisory time to make that work. But it's time. It's time to at least have that discussion.
And those of you who were on the committee last year, or at least on the school board, will know that we had lengthy conversations about this last year and felt like it was really important to add, and we didn't because we didn't have space. And now, because of proficiency-based diplomas, we're having a bigger sense of urgency to say, all right, this person might have to be on a cart moving from class to class rather than a class that students would go to, and we would make that work because we do think it's really important.
And Carrie, my memory is from the NEASC, wasn't that one of their strong recommendations too in terms of language?
And one of the strong recommendations is that we offer more than just Spanish. I think if to do a survey of area schools, we're the only one offering just one language. And that's through a series of budget cuts and hiring issues and things like that. So, but I think hard pressed for us to expand at the high school if we're not going to start earlier down, right, and sort of sort that out. So.
And since we're talking proficiency, I think it's better to do one thing really well than to have partial proficiency in multiple areas, knowing that that's not going to get our students where they need to go. So as an administrative team, we really talked about this being our next move for foreign language for that reason.
Any other questions about that or comments?
I would just add that historically we did offer
Yes.
to our middle school students. We used to offer French to them, so it's not something new to our middle school students. It was an offer that we used to have.
The other priority, and this comes from Dawn specifically, is around a field hockey coach stipend. It's something that we used to fund, and then participation got low. But this past season, we had 28 girls participated in the field hockey program, which is awesome, and they're on the rise. And there's a huge youth program that is it's really making some waves in the area, and so we don't anticipate that number going down at all. What we're hoping to do is to bring back that second stipend, because the one coach with 28 girls was a lot, a lot for that coach to handle, and she'd have to coach two, back-to-back games to try to get everybody in. So that was hard as far as management goes. So that was a request from Dawn, and you can see there our total cost of priorities, $51,560. Of course, the language teacher's salary is it's kind of rough, but.
So Sean, before you go on, I just want to add about the field hockey coach. One of our requirements for Title IX is that we have equal opportunities for girls and boys, and in that there's a requirement that you have equal participation, so the same percentage of girls participating in sports as we do boys, and we haven't achieved that yet. So this in part is to encourage increased participation so that we are in compliance with federal law for equal participation of girls. And it's tough for 7th grade girls to compete against 8th grade girls. They've got another year of development and growth, so having two programs would certainly help us in that area.
Sean, before you
Yes.
talk about the cut, do you mind if there's something that we had talked about, and that is space at the middle school?
Yeah.
Were you going to talk about that a little bit?
No, well, not necessarily. Do you want to go ahead, or?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's in our strategic plan to take a look at the current overcrowding in the middle school, and so we've been doing some work on that, and we actually have a company who's doing an enrollment projection study for us to determine if the current overcrowding is something that may lessen in a few years, or if it's something that's going to remain an issue or even become a bigger issue over the next few years. So once we have that information, we'll have a really good idea about the direction that committee is going to need to consider going in to make more space for the middle school. But I know that it's not just space for the middle school, and it's more than a teacher on a cart. It also impacts the high school and Carrie's space. Carrie's lost 3 classrooms, Carrie, to make room for middle school courses. So this is a bigger picture than just the middle school. This is an entire district picture, but I didn't want us to lose that as you're talking about.
I wasn't sure if that would
communities.
come up with facilities discussion, but
It'll come up there,
the
too.
other piece too, it also has an impact on special education. We're sending a number of students out of district
Yes.
right now that I think if we had more space to provide different programming, that we wouldn't necessarily have to do that, and that's a lot of money that's going out the door, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then just the budget proposal removed. I had proposed a full-time physical education teacher. Right now, our students are able to access physical education once a week, and I don't think that's enough. I know it's not enough, and but we're going to continue to be creative to offer opportunities for our kids to be active and to be educated around physical activity. So I prioritize the world language teacher over the physical education teacher in this case.
Any questions for Sean? We're a little behind schedule, but not much.